Hey there y'all, and welcome to the kitchen. This week's lesson is going to be Mama's chicken soup, and you want to know what? This is what I always make whenever somebody in my house says, Mama, I don't feel good. So you're going to want to save this one for later because eventually that might happen to you. And I always say we need to heal ourselves with our food. So this is a recipe that actually does that. As always, I'm going to show you our meal prepped ingredients, what we are doing shortcut style, and I'll even share with you a couple things that you can do to shorten this shortcut even further. So first thing I have on hand is I have a bunch of pulled chicken here. This is about 4 to 5 cups of chicken, and all I did to get this was I put 2 whole chickens in my extra large Instapot this weekend, cooked them, cleaned them, and I have them on hand to go in many recipes. You don't have to do that if you don't have a huge Instapot. You're very easily going to just get to the finish line by buying a pack of chicken breasts, a pack of chicken thighs, putting them in your regular crock pot or on the stove top or even in your smaller Instapot, cooking them off and shredding them. Whenever you do that, you always have an opportunity to balance out your meat for a dark to light ratio and get that perfect balance of juicy dark meat with that light tender breast meat. So that's how you can get there without doing the whole chicken and avoiding the bones. But that's what I did today, and we have some shredded chicken, 4 to 5 cups. I've got some potatoes here that I peeled already. I'm going to show you how to dice them, but you can buy diced potatoes in the freezer section. That's another way to shortcut this. These are 4 about medium small russet potatoes. My mother-in-law is the originator of this recipe, and she says 2 russet potatoes, but for this size I like to do 3 or 4. And then I've got some carrots here, and we always can shortcut our carrots, but in this case I'm going to show you some chopping skills. Carrots are easily found in the freezer section as well, already diced, easy to go. And onion too. We're going to go in with some onion. I'm going to show you the chopping skills, but you can easily get a diced onion directly in your freezer section. So potatoes, carrots, onion going in here. All of those can be found in the freezer section or in the produce section pre-chopped. That's another place to find those onions, and maybe carrots too sometimes. Then I've got some canned corn. We're going to put 1.5 cans of corn into our soup, and then the other half of this corn is going to go with our side dish, our yummy pepper jack cornbread. You're going to want to know how to make that one too. Then I got a can of diced tomatoes and some chicken base or chicken bouillon to shortcut that stock. Now, let's get started on this soup, and then I'll show you how to do the cornbread after that. First thing I did was I've got some heat underneath my stove. It's at 425. I'm going to start that there. This, my big pot, is going to get all of my vegetables first because my chicken is already cooked. So we're going to just basically start to chop, and while I teach you the method, we're going to talk about some chopping skills. So our chopping skills are so important because if we don't have a shortcut solution, knowing how to do this is actually going to help you speed along the process in the kitchen. The reason I teach this so often is you will be so shocked how many grown adults I have seen in the kitchen who take 10 or 20 minutes to chop an onion, and they have to walk away, dry their tears, and come back. So just knowing the method is going to help you get to the finish line even faster if you don't have that shortcut ingredient on hand. It's a skill you're going to need to know. The same thing with the carrots. This is actually a funny story. Several years ago, I was in the kitchen making our dinner, and my father-in-law, who's a rocket scientist, comes in and he says, "How can I help you make dinner?" And I mean, we had several things go, and I was doing the dinner dance, like I say, multitasking. I had all things moving in the right direction. And I just said, "You know what? You can help me by chopping some carrots." So I gave him a knife and I handed him over some carrots for our salad and thought, send him on his merry way. He'll be done in a couple minutes. Well, I completely assembled an entire salad and finished off our whole dinner by the time he had chopped those 2 carrots. So that rocket scientist taught me that I can't assume everybody knows how to chop something and get there quickly. So basically I just peeled these and took both of the ends off, and this is the method to quickly chopping carrots. Anytime you have something round, you want to make it flat. So we're going to cut this in half, and then we're going to make this a flat. have a flat side. So I put my 2 flat sides down after it's gone through the middle, and the larger end I'm going to cut it in smaller strips so it has even consistent sizes in my soup. So for this I'm going to cut these, they're pretty wide at the top. I'm going to cut these 3 ways because I look at the base of my smallest carrot, and I'm going to half this and just run my knife through it, so that's the end goal of size I want. If you do a shortcut carrot recipe or out of the freezer section or whatever, those are already going to be broken down into the same even Steven size. Usually you'll find those in squares, but sometimes you'll find them in circles as well. So my carrots are getting chopped. For the bottom end, I'm going to half that instead of cutting it in thirds across long ways. I'm just going to bang through this back. Anytime you're chopping, you use the motion of the ocean and you just rock. You leave the tip of your blade on the board, fingers curled under, and you just rock with the motion of an ocean, just like a boat would on the sea. Okay, and that's it. Now that I've got some carrots going, I'm gonna get some heat under my pan. We don't need a lot of fat, but I'm just gonna give them a little bit of olive oil or avocado oil to have something to move around in. And as I get these things chopped, they'll go ahead and just land right into my dish. Easily, you could use butter right there too. No harm in that ever at all. Okay, here we go. Yep, there's some heat already under that pan. Okay, so I'm going to chop my other 2, and we're going to just revisit that method really quickly. In half. This one's a little smaller at the top, so I'm going to go in half one more time instead of 3 ways. Fingers curled under, rocking. You always want to have as many fingers on the knife as possible on the handle. So you don't want to put your finger out like this. You want to tuck that under so you have the most control. And I've seen a lot of people who tend to do that. It doesn't actually give you more control. It just gives you a little bit less because that main strong finger is not on your handle. So trust me, keep that finger tucked back. And these fingers tucked back too. Okay, so here we go. About the same size. Now, the rule of thumb across the board is all of your veggies need to be approximately or very close to the same size. So I'm going to put an onion in here. All in all, 1 onion is about this size, is about 1.5 cups of onions. So if you're going to use a bag of onions from the freezer, you can use the whole bag, but really half a bag would be plenty. It just is depending on your preference. If I've got a giant like Spanish onion or something, we go half for this recipe. The main ingredients that are the star of the show in this for my family is the chicken, and my husband loves the carrots, and then my little ones love the potatoes. Especially those little potatoes that absorb all this yummy liquid. Oh, it's so good. There's no substitute for a good pot of homemade chicken soup when you don't feel good. Okay, so for the onion, I peeled it, cut off both the ends, and I'm going to go through this with my fingers like this to hold my onion in place. That's between my fingers. I made an arch. Then I'm turning it, curling my fingers under, and we're going to pass through again. A sharp knife is so important, and I always link my knife right below so you can get the knife I actually have in my hand in your cart, in your Amazon cart, if you want to be cooking just like I am. But a sharp knife is so important. And after you've had your knife for a while, sometimes they just don't sharpen well anymore. So just pay attention to that. If you've had your knife for about 5 years, it may be time for a new one. I had one for 4 or 5 years, and my husband went to sharpen it, and he was like, nope, too far gone. So that's why I got this one for Mother's Day. So my potatoes, if you'll notice, I peeled them before we started so I could have a little bit more time to do some other things. But if you want to buy these in the freezer section, you can. But if you ever need to peel your potatoes before you're ready to use them, all you have to do is put them in a little water bath, and they don't turn color, and they stay just fine. So for my potatoes, I'm going to cut them in half, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to get them the right size. Now this is a little bit tall, so I'm going to cut him in half again and stack them up. So if I'm passing through one time, I'm cutting 2 sections of potatoes. I went in half long ways, and then we're going to come through here, and we're going to just do something similar to the size of those carrots, and in we go. That's what they ended up being. And this depends again on your preference. If you've got a house full of big kids and adults, you don't have to worry about chopping things quite so small, but the small chop does actually give you a little quicker cooking time. So it pays off in the chopping department in the long run to spend some more time chopping and not as much time cooking if you're in a real hurry. Okay, so we're gonna go again, same method, half and half, and then pass through and pass through. I have been chopping a lot for a long time. So if you're not as fast as me, don't ever be critical of yourself. It takes time to get there. Okay, this is a little skinnier one, so we're gonna go across, and I'm not gonna half this for the thickness. I'm just gonna go through 2 times for the length to give us the right size, and then we're gonna get this in, and one more potato, and we'll be a business. We'll be ready to add some liquid to this and some seasonings. This is super simple. My mother-in-law, her style of cooking is very simple, very practical, just exactly what you need to feel comforted. Okay, this one I took one section off because he's gonna be perfect with one section off. He's gonna go in thirds. That's how he's gonna work out. So, anyway, my mother-in-law's style of cooking is incredibly simple and practical. She likes home-cooked basics like beef and gravy and rice, chicken and rice, chicken and noodles, and this chicken chowder is something that she has made for years. And when I learned how to cook, my main 5 things, and we've talked about that before if you've watched me much, there's the main 5 things that my husband wanted me to learn to cook that his mama made, and this is on the list. Okay, makes. Okay, so we've got potatoes, carrots, and onions in. I'm gonna give them a little sprinkling of salt at this point. Stir them around a little bit to get everybody touching the heat evenly. And then all I've got to do is start adding in some liquid. This doesn't get incredibly heavily seasoned. Obviously, anytime you don't feel great, you don't want a bunch of heavy seasonings, but you still want to have a lot of salt, a lot of flavor, and a lot of savory, brothy goodness. So that's what we're building in here. So that was 1 layer of salt. We will season as we go. And then I'm going to do about a teaspoon of pepper here, which is about 10 or 12 good cracks of fresh black pepper. I love my pepper grinders. Maybe I'll get a fancy one day for Christmas or something. Okay, so my canned ingredients are this. And you can easily get your corn in the freezer section as well. But we have diced tomatoes and some canned corn. My canned corn is going to go both in my cornbread and in my soup. So 1 whole can, is that upside down? I mean, it doesn't really matter. 1 whole can is going to go into my soup, and then half of the second can is going to go in. After that, we'll reserve that other half and add it to the bowl for our cornbread shortly. I love to do things like this. These make sense flavor-wise together, but it also makes sense ingredient-wise because obviously it's helpful to not have to get out a ton of different things and use ingredients. So that's what we're doing here. I drained some of the liquid off, and then 1 can is going to go in. And then half of this second can. Okay, that's going there. Then we're going to get our tomatoes in. And these are pretty petite diced. That's kind of my mother-in-law's preference. You don't have to do that, but I like to do it as close to what she likes, just because that's the way my husband likes it. So these are diced tomatoes going in. And then now what we need is another layer of flavor. And that's where our chicken base comes in. Chicken base is what you taste in restaurants that makes their food taste more savory, more long cooked, more everything. It's beef base, chicken base. They put it in gravies, sauces, soups. That's the secret. You can get this in your regular grocery store. I actually prefer it to the bouillon cubes, but if you have bouillon cubes, I would say a tablespoon of that equals 1 bouillon cube. So we're gonna go in here with about 2 heaping or 3 evenly measured tablespoons of bouillon. And then I'm gonna get a good bit of water in here, about 8 to 10 cups, but I want everything to be completely covered and submerged. Where we're going with this is you want to have enough broth in your soup. You don't want your soup to be mainly stuff and not enough soup. So we're gonna go and look at our soup level compared to our ingredients. Okay, but before we add our liquid, our chicken is gonna go in. And this is about, like I said, this was 4 to 5 cups of chicken. It's 1 whole chicken pulled, but I don't even think I have to use all of this. So 1 whole chicken pulled was a little bit too much. I'd say about 2 breasts and a thigh is all you need. If you're doing it that way. But if you just want to buy a pack of chicken breast, this is really still delicious that way. I just would make sure you have plenty of broth to keep that chicken breast nice and juicy. So my beef base went in. I'm going to put in some water, or my chicken base, I'm sorry. I'm going to put in some water. I might actually have to get some more in my jug. All right, I'm going to get some more in my jug. I've been watering the flowers this morning and something else needs my water. So I'm going to get some more in my jug. I love to just have my water jug ready on hand, but if I don't have my water jug handy on hand, I like to keep a mason jar, like a big quart mason jar full of water on my stove side. So anytime something gets a little bit hot or gets carried away cooking and I need to slow it down, I'm ready to slow it down with a splash of water and I don't even have to panic. So that's a good tip. Always keep a little water by the stove and you'll be ready to go if you have an emergency. But never put that water on a fire. You smother your fire. Okay, good talk. Now I'm putting in my water, and like I said, I'm covering all of my ingredients and then another little inch because you want to have a lot of soup in your chicken soup. You want to have a lot of the liquid, but at the same time, as this cooks and your veggies get tender, this is going to cook down slightly. So you want to give it a chance to have some room to reduce. And honest to goodness, I may add a little bit more water in the process if it reduces too much. But now we're going to give it a sprinkle of salt and she'll be ready to go and we can move on to cornbread. Now, I typically don't cover this. I always say bringing something to a boil, you cover it to get it there faster. But because there's starch in there, I don't cover it because if I do, chances are it's going to all over my stove. So since I'm not walking away, I could cover this, but in a minute we're going to come back. This is going to boil for about 20 minutes, just long enough for that stuff to get tender, and it will be completely ready. But when I come back, I'm going to show you how to do my cornbread, and you're going to want to have this on your game day table, even if you're just having chili. I'll see you in a second. All right, y'all, we're back and ready to do some cornbread. So first thing I want to show you is my muffin tin. This is the shortcut answer for cornbread. It's also a shortcut answer for things like meatloaf and cake, but my muffin tin gets a lot of shortcut work, and this is the perfect answer. So first thing I'm going to do is, this is a non-stick muffin tin, but I still don't want to fight that battle. So I am going to spray this with some non-stick spray. I call this insurance. This is insurance spray, because even though this is non-stick, I just don't want to fight that battle later. Well, I missed one. Just good measure. I've fought that battle many times before. My oven is at 425, and then I just have the contents of a box of shortcut cornbread mix. You're going to follow your cornbread mix instructions like they are on the package. Mine calls for 1 egg, a little bit of water. You can use milk, whatever yours calls for, and a little bit of oil. So basically, I'm going to go in with a tablespoon of oil, like my mix says. Get my 1 egg in there, and then I'm going to get a little water. And if you've heard me say this before, it's going to call for a third of a cup of water. But I always say, if you've got a mason jar, you've got a measuring cup. This mason jar is a pint mason jar. This is 2-cup measure. You just don't know it. So I'm going to get a third of a cup of water in here, or approximately. This is one of those things, as long as you have enough and it's moist enough, a tablespoon off is not a big deal. And then I'm going to get in my corn. We reserved half of a can of corn. And I'm going to stir this up, and then we're going to get our cheese in here. Now, I don't like to use my whisk and my cheese at the same time, so we're going to whisk everything together, and then when my cheese goes in, I'm just going to fold that in with a spoon. You don't want to get too cheesy in your whisk because that's super hard to clean. Learn that the hard way. Okay, looks delicious. So I'm going to grate about 4 ounces of pepper jack cheese. If you want to do cheddar here, I've done that a lot. Colby Jack, Monterey Jack works. All those things are delicious. And if you even wanted to add some jalapenos in here, that's delicious too, but I'm feeding a little bit of a mixed crowd, so we're not going to do the jalapenos today. But this is pepper jack cheese, so it will have a little kick to it. So I'm just grating about 4 ounces, which is half of a regular size block. It'll be the equivalent of a cup of cheese if you're using a bag of pre-shredded, which is also the shortest cut way to get there. I always prefer, though, if I can, to grate my cheese myself because it just has that little bit better consistency. Okay, so in with my cheese. All right, And these corn muffins are not only delicious with this soup, but they're also delicious with a chili, any kind of hearty stew. These are delicious. Honestly, you don't have to have an occasion to make these. I have a niece who loves cornbread so much. She went through a phase that she just would get up in the morning and make herself some cornbread. And loved it. So I'm going to dish this out into my muffin tins. Each one's going to be about halfway full. We want to go back and fill up anything with extra batter at the end, but we're going to go halfway full out of the gate here. If you fill them up further than that, I find that you get skimpy with your last few cornbread muffins, and we don't want anybody to be skimpy. And we also don't want to have to go back through and steal from somebody else's muffin tin. So this little half full way is the best way to get there without all that extra work. And all you have to do is take your extra batter and fill up whatever looks skimpy when you go back. It sounds like I may have done that before, huh? Maybe, just maybe. Okay. My soup has been going for about 10 minutes now. I did decide to put my lid on because, like I said, I'm not walking away. And literally that soup, the veggies are the only things cooking. I did want to point out that if you get your veggies in the freezer section, instead of chopping them yourself, you are going to have a little shorter cook time on the cooking part because they are a little softer than what a fresh veggie chopped is. So we ended up being perfect. Half full on the muffin tin all the way across the board. Everybody in there. We got a little more batter in here. We want to give him, find the skimpiest one and give it the rest of the batter. I always do that. Let's see. You're right there. You look like you need that. It's so funny the things that we're particular about. I'm particular about making sure everybody looks like they're even. And when I was a kid, and this is front of my mind now because I have two little girls who have just really gotten into Barbies for the first time. When I was a kid, I was always really making a big deal about my Barbies not being uncovered, and they had to be under a blanket whenever I went to bed for the night. It's so funny how we have little things when we're growing up and even when we're adults. Okay, so these are going to go in at 425, and literally those are not going to take more than 12, maybe 15 minutes. They'll be at the finish line at the same time as my soup, and we'll see you back here to wrap it up in just a minute. Okay, y'all, it's about that time. Our soup smells amazing. Our muffins are in the home stretch, last couple minutes. So I wanted to let you know, I've got my knife link and my muffin tin link down in the description below. I also have a link to Mama Whitten's Kitchen if you want to actually join me with my live lessons on Fridays and have me on hand to answer any culinary questions you may have. I have kids and moms that message me all week long. I even get messages in the thick of dinner time sometimes saying, help, this doesn't look the way I thought it was going to, and we've solved that problem. I did that just yesterday. So I'm going to put the links to all those descriptions below, and I'm also going to tell you some other stuff that you can find in Mama Whitten's Kitchen. It has a culinary foundations course for new beginner cooks. It has my shortcut supper recipes, lots more that don't even live here on YouTube. And it also has Mama's favorite meals that my family loves, that we have all the time. They may not be a shortcut meal, but something wonderful to try to have a new family favorite, as well as my live classes every single Friday. And I even teach you how to shop and stock your pantry, use your budget-friendly stuff for meal planning, a lot of good info in there. But my very favorite part is Moments in Motherhood. It's something I do every so often. I load extra lessons in there of things the Lord has shown me in the kitchen while I've just been in there with me and Him, whether I'm doing dishes or cooking. It's just things the Lord has taught me along the way in motherhood and in marriage. So those are the things that you find if you get in Mama Whitten's Kitchen with me. And like I said, we have a lot of fun in there. There's a lot of good mamas, a lot of good kids in there, whole families learning about food and really getting dinner time to be that fun time everybody's looking forward to. And I love it. So my soup is ready. I actually turned it off a few minutes ago because it's screaming hot. We actually have a saying in our house. If I say supper's ready and they know it's a soup, they'll go, but Mom, is it molten hot lava? And chances are it's yes. So I learned a long time ago, turn that soup off a few minutes before you want somebody to eat it. But this soup is what I make if my family has a sniffle in their nose, a bellyache, or really any kind of really cold and rainy day, anytime like that. This is perfect every time. This is a mother-in-law recipe, one of the things that I had to learn, one of my husband's favorite things. So this has been with us the whole time we've been married. Now, for my cornbread muffins, that's my little Mama Whitten touch. My mother-in-law, she does corn in her cornbread, but that pepper jack cheese, that's all Mama Whitten. And I'll tell you, sometimes I make it with jalapenos, and there's no complaints in that department either. You can make this with any cheese that you have on hand, but I love the pepper jack because it has that yummy flavor as well as a little kick to it. So I'm gonna get one of my muffins out. All this is so piping hot, but how I would serve this is I take my muffin and I would dip it into my soup. Delicious. Now these are screaming hot, so they're not gonna come out as easy as if I let them sit for a minute. But remember, we did that non-stick spray to give us a little extra insurance, and the insurance worked. So if I can touch it, my fingers, honest to goodness, woo! My fingers are slightly numb to pain. So when I say I can grab it, but you probably shouldn't, that is a testimony of experience. So my corn muffins, I want to show you what they look like. They're so moist, so savory. Look at that. And that's what you want in a corn muffin. You don't want it to taste like sawdust in your mouth. I got to grab a spoon and take a little bite of this muffin. It'll have a little kick, but won't be overpowering, so your kids can't eat this. So delicious. Now I like to dunk my cornbread into my soup, but everything's gonna have to cool before I can do that. This is the test of the broth right here. It's my favorite part. It's what heals you from the inside. Delicious. Y'all, make this soup. Get familiar with it, so when somebody doesn't feel good, you don't even have to think about it. This is what you're gonna do. You're gonna come back to my YouTube channel, or you're gonna join me in Mama Whitten's kitchen, and we're gonna make this together next time you have a cold, rainy day, a game day, or anytime somebody's under the weather. Happy cooking, y'all, and I can't wait to see you next time in the kitchen. Have a good one. I'm taking this one with me. Oh, and this too.